Did you know that the majority of us intelligent walking apes spend our day-to-day in a slightly dehydrated state? Did you also know that upwards of 88% of the US population is metabolically unhealthy? And finally, do you remember the time
When Bobby Boucher showed up at halftime and the Mud Dogs won the Bourbon Bowl, do you?
Sorry, this is a video about the deleterious effects of dehydration on metabolic health, so I kind of feel like we need a few impromptu Waterboy clips throughout, right?
Mr. Coach Klein said I couldn't spot.
Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftinbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic manner. Today, we are exploring how the power of hydration goes way further than the Mud Dogs practice field, and all the way to your internal metabolic playing field, to the extent that it modulates a number of different metabolic processes that either leads us down the path of disease or rejuvenates our longevity. Oh, and makes us more prone to storing fat.
What the hell did you just say?
Not that anyone's interested in that. So in this video, we're going to talk about how hydration is perceived within our body, the impact of common dietary additives such as sugar and salt, how hydration status can help promote or prevent fat accumulation, and finally some tweaks that can get your pretty cool meat suit back running like the lean, mean, fully hydrated machine that it should be. Especially when you're consuming some
High quality A2O.
Oh! Thanks, Bobby. I won't tell Mama you're helping with YouTube now. No way. So first, let's start with some key evolutionary background. Our survival switch. A few videos back, we talked about how our early ancestors evolved with a metabolic survival switch, which, when turned on, placed them in a biochemical state which prioritized the accumulation of fat. This switch, as we discussed in depth in this video, which I'll also link below, was absolutely critical for survival. It was our early primate ancestors' way to load up on energy when it was abundant, so they could survive during the harsh and unexpected times of famine. You know, back when 2-hour delivery wasn't a thing. And what modern research has discovered is that this switch actually has a trigger. Any guesses? Fructose. Well, really the abundance of fructose, or the natural sugar found in fruit, which was our ancestors' main source of energy throughout much of evolution. Now, to make an extremely long story short, this wasn't really a problem for much of our existence. In fact, like I said before, it was actually a critical feature for survival, which was the case until the last few hundred years or so, and the whole transition to the modern ultra-processed diet, which is riddled with added sugar, processed oils, and excess sodium. A combo that for the first time ever has this survival switch stuck in the on position for the broader population, driving to the accumulation of uric acid, mitochondria dysfunction, impaired hormone signaling, chronic inflammation, and thus modern day disease. Now, this was a highly simplified version of all that data that we reviewed in that video. So if you have the time, I suggest you watch it to understand the full extent and fix to this modern day dilemma. It might even make sense to pause this, watch that, and then come back. Either way, I bring all this up because recent research suggests that this pathway can and is turned on by other factors than the food or added sugar that we consume. Factors that drive us to make fructose endogenously and turn on this fat storing and dysfunction driving switch without even picking up a candy bar. Yep, that damn body, the survival machine, at it again, doing everything that it can to take in and reap all of the energy abundant prosperous times that never seem to end anymore. So I bet you are wondering by now, how exactly does this happen? And the answer is by a metabolic mechanism called the polyol pathway. Let's talk about it. While added sugar in the diet is the main culprit of turning on this metabolic survival switch, it was discovered that fructose can be synthesized internally and thus turn on this aforementioned process that prioritizes the accumulation of fat. But how? One way is by converting glucose to fructose via this polyol pathway. Yep, glucose, when in abundance, can get converted to fructose. This is where an enzyme called aldose reductase converts glucose to sorbitol, which is then metabolized to fructose via an enzyme called sorbitol dehydrogenase. I know, a lot of big words, but there's more. This process can not only be stimulated by high glucose levels, but by high salt diets, which increase something called blood osmolarity. And here's why you should care. Osmolarity may sound like a fancy scientific word, but what it really means is the change in salt concentration in the blood, either from loss of water or consumption of salt. And can you guess what a higher blood osmolarity means? Anyone?
Mama say that happiness is from magic rays of sunshine that come down when you're feeling blue.
Thank you, Bobby. Yeah, no, that's right. I watched the movie. I ain't telling him he's wrong. When salt concentration in your blood goes up, it happens to be another trigger of this polyol pathway, and thus stimulates in-house fructose production. And research has shown that heat stress, dehydration, and high salt diets all induce hyperosmolarity, which activates that enzyme, aldose reductase, leading to the generation of fructose in tissue like the kidney, liver, and brain. When you consume a lot of dietary salt, the concentration or balance of salt to water goes up in your blood, and it mimics the effect of losing water. And when you're dehydrated, your body works to retain water. Both increase the osmolarity of one's blood and activate this pathway to make fructose, aka turn on that survival switch. Yikes. But what data do we have here? Let's take a look. One study, which gave animals high salt over several months, found that eventually, after a few months, and slower than giving them just straight fructose, the mice became obese and diabetic, with analysis showing that the animals were making a lot of in-house fructose. There's also human observational data showing that people who are overweight or obese also tend to be dehydrated and consume a lot more salt. And maybe the most interesting recent data on the topic was the discovery that when salt concentration goes up in the blood, it activates a hormone called vasopressin, a hormone that helps conserve water. So we must ask, we don't need you to answer, Bobby, but we must ask, why is this such a big deal? The saga continues. Vasopressin's metabolic effect. Initially, this hormone was thought to protect animals from dehydration in one of two ways, either by concentrating the urine or decreasing water vapor loss through the lungs. However, this hormone was later discovered to play a prominent role in this survival pathway. Researchers recently discovered that vasopressin has a direct role in how sugar drives obesity. And here's how. The metabolism of fructose, internally or externally derived, upregulates the production of vasopressin in the energy regulating part of the brain, the hypothalamus, and happens to work through a particular receptor called the vasopressin 1b receptor. This interaction reduces water loss via the kidneys while stimulating fat and glycogen production as a store of metabolic water. Yes, you heard that right. We are programmed to store water in fat and muscle, and there's only so much muscle we can store it in. This has coined vasopressin by many as an official fat hormone. So how does all this play into the hydration narrative?
Mama says that.
No, Bobby, we don't need you to answer. Mama's right, always right. Thank you. Let's bring this full circle. It has been shown that dehydration-induced hyperosmolarity induces in-house fructose generation in the hypothalamus, where it then mediates the release of vasopressin, increasing the likelihood of activating this disease-promoting fat accumulation switch and keeping it on for longer and longer periods of time. In an interesting human study, researchers randomized participants into 3 groups and had them consume either a high salt soup, medium salt soup, or low salt soup. and they noticed that vasopressin levels went up in the participants who consumed the saltier soups, hinting that this switch was being activated. There also happened to be a sharp rise in blood pressure in these participants as well. All responses that could be dampened and lessened by watering down the soup. Dare I ask, what happens when someone gets all their water through high sugar, high salt soft drinks? Unfortunately, I think we kinda know, as it's the reality for a large percentage of the general population. But, as you know, it doesn't have to be. All of this suggests that an increase in blood osmolarity via dehydration, salt consumption, excess sugar, or any which combination can directly trigger the biochemical pathways that promote fat storage and, when continuously activated, promote disease. Yikes is right. But now that we know the potential impact, let's talk about what we can do. Simply put, we should all do what Bobby Boucher would do.
That's a sheep back there.
Okay, he may have overdone it a tad, but staying hydrated can definitely go a long way. When it comes down to brass tacks, the two key hydration focus factors that influence this internal polyol pathway are water and salt, which together determine your blood osmolarity and the potential on-off status of your metabolic survival switch. The good news is, especially when it comes to these two factors, is that you, my friends, are in control. You can dictate your hydration levels and your salt consumption. And animal research suggests that just by increasing water intake before mice are fed sugar can largely block the negative effects of this pathway and drastically reduce the risk of obesity and diabetes. Just by a little water. And as we discussed before, by lowering the concentration of salt and increasing the dilution of water in the soup that humans consumed, led to lower levels of vasopressin in circulation. So it's really the balance of salt and water which one consumes that governs the osmolarity or salt concentration in the blood. The dilemma is, though, most people drink too little or drink sodium and sugar-filled beverages and consume an ultra-processed Western diet riddled with high sodium and high added sugar. So to start getting back on track, as always, you want to baseline your current state. How much water are you drinking? A good starting point for most is around 8 glasses a day. However, this varies based on a number of different factors, including exercise, diet, and overall environment. Next, how much salt are you consuming? The guideline among health overseeing bodies is around 1.5 grams a day. However, the average human consumes around double that. Also, make note if you are consuming adequate fruits and vegetables, which have a lot of water in them. Ever hear the term, eat your water? Eat your fruits and veggies. One of my favorite habits is to bring a nice glass of water to bed, place it on my nightstand, and have it waiting to consume at bedside first thing when I get up. Because if you didn't know, we can, and often do, lose a fair amount of water when we sleep. Exhalation and perspiration being the two main culprits. And if we get up and grab that sugary coffee first thing, that's probably going to send the wrong biological message, if you catch my drift. And then throughout the day, whether you be using a nifty measuring water bottle to keep you motivated, or habit stacking drinking a little water before or after things you do each and every day, like eating, aim to consume around 8 glasses or 64 ounces, especially if your eating habits may need some improvement, which I think we can all raise our glass to. And I have a whole bunch of tips around that eating aspect in the aforementioned survival switch video, which I'd suggest you check out. But we have to remember, just like anything else in this complex macro and micro biological world, there is no silver bullet. Drinking some high quality H2O on the reg is probably not going to solve all of your health woes, especially long-standing pre-existing ones. It definitely won't hurt, but everyone's in a different starting position. So a well-planned, comprehensive strategy touching on the components of what and when you eat, how much you move, your environment, the sleep you get, stress management, as well as we saw here, good hydration, is always recommended to optimize your pretty cool meat suit. to the max. And when we think about it in the grand scheme of things and interventions that are easiest to execute upon, improving hydration status is a quick and easy way to improve your health. So put yourself in a position to operate efficiently. Give yourself the opportunity to feel good, refreshed, restored, and rejuvenated every single damn day. And hydrate up. And if you're not where you want to be, or need a little extra support and guidance, you could always join our weekly longevity challenges in the Patreon, where we as a group implement longevity-focused change, habit by habit, slowly and sustainably getting healthier from the inside out. All the information there will be linked in the description below. You know the motto: learn the system, hack the system. There's no better reward than gaining back your health, because when you do, you gain back your life. Oh, and one more thing.
You can do it!
I mean, he's got a point.